The night sky above the human colony shimmered like a sea of blue fire. The twin moons of Elira rose slowly over the horizon, bathing the dusty plains in silver light. The world was calm, too calm for a planet shared by two species who never truly trusted each other. In the far corner of the colony, a small boy named Ethan Wells sat near the old space fence, his eyes fixed on the stars. He was only 12, but his dreams already reached beyond this world. He wanted to be a space pilot to travel across galaxies. But tonight wasn't about dreams. Tonight was about a secret. A soft sound broke the silence, a voice light and shy. "You came." Ethan turned and smiled. There she was, Lyra, a young alien slave girl. Her silver skin shimmered under the moonlight, and her big violet eyes seemed to hold the entire night sky inside them. She worked for one of the rich human families, cleaning their labs and feeding their pets. To most people, she was invisible. But not to Ethan. He had found her months ago, hiding behind the storage crates, crying quietly. Since then, he had been her only friend. "I said I would," Ethan replied, grinning. "You think I'd forget?" She sat beside him, her long tail curling nervously. "If they catch me outside the quarters, they'll punish me." "They won't," Ethan said, looking around. "It's just us. I promise." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked softly, "Why are you nice to me?" "Humans don't like my kind." Ethan thought about that. "Because you're not like the others." You're just you." Her eyes sparkled. "That's a strange answer," he smiled. "Then I'll give you a better one. When we grow up, I'll marry you. Then no one can hurt you again." For a moment, Lyra froze. Her heart pounded. She didn't know what marriage meant exactly, but she knew it was something humans said when they loved someone. "You promise?" she whispered. Ethan nodded seriously. "I promise. When we're older, no matter what." Lyra smiled for the first time that night, her silver cheeks glowing. "Then I'll come back for you, even if it takes forever." The night passed quietly after that, but somewhere deep in the colony, a pair of red eyes watched them from the shadows. A machine drone, silent, programmed to record forbidden meetings between humans and slaves. The next day, everything changed. When Ethan woke up, soldiers were already marching through the colony. The slave quarters were sealed. No one was allowed in or out. He ran toward the fence, shouting her name. "Lyra!" Lyra, no answer. Only smoke rising in the distance. He waited there for hours, but she never came. That night, the soldiers said the alien slaves had been relocated, but the grown-ups never told the truth. Ethan knew they were gone. All of them. He searched every night for a sign. He never found one. Only a small piece of metal near the fence, a broken charm shaped like a star. He kept it in his pocket for years, holding it like a piece of his lost promise. 15 years later, the colony had changed. It was now a military base ruled by humans only. Ethan was no longer a boy. He was a soldier, a pilot, just like he had dreamed. But the smile he once had was gone. The boy who made a promise under the stars was buried under orders and war. He sat alone in his ship, staring at the charm again. The same star, the same memory. "You said you'd come back," he whispered to himself. "Where are you, Lyra?" Then the alarm lights flashed red. His radar picked up something strange. An unknown ship entering orbit, no ID, no signal. "Captain Wells," his commander's voice boomed through the radio. "Prepare to intercept. Unknown craft approaching, possibly hostile." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Roger that." As his ship rose into the sky, he couldn't explain the feeling inside him. A strange mix of fear and hope. The unidentified ship appeared on his screen. Sleek, silver, alive-looking, nothing human-made. And through the glass cockpit, a figure looked back at him. Silver skin, violet eyes, his breath caught. "Impossible," he whispered. The comms crackled. A soft, familiar voice came through. "You promised. Remember?" Ethan's heart stopped. And in that moment, the stars didn't look so far anymore. The silver ship hovered silently over the colony's sky. Every defense turret aimed at it, every soldier waited for orders. The unknown craft did not fire, did not move, it only stayed still, shining like a ghost under the twin moons. Inside his fighter, Ethan Wells could not take his eyes off it. His hands trembled on the control stick. That voice, it couldn't be real. It had been 15 years since he last saw her. 15 years since the night she vanished. "Unknown pilot," his commander's voice growled through the radio. "Identify yourself, or we open fire." No reply. The ship remained quiet, almost as if it were listening. Ethan's radar beeped again. The alien craft was locking onto him, but not for attack. It was scanning him. "Captain Wells," the commander barked. "Fall back now." "That's an order." But Ethan didn't move. Something deep inside him refused to turn away. He switched to a private channel and whispered, "Lyra, is that you?" For a moment there was silence. Then a soft voice replied, calm and familiar. "You kept the star charm, didn't you?" Ethan's chest tightened. His eyes darted to the small metal star hanging beside his console. How do you know that?" "I gave it to you. Remember?" Ethan's breath caught. The world around him faded. For a second he was a boy again, sitting by the old fence, holding her hand under the moonlight. "Lyra," he whispered, "it's really you." "Yes," she said. "I came back. Just like I promised." The colony's alarms grew louder. Dozens of ships surrounded the alien craft now. The soldiers didn't care about promises, they only saw a threat. "Ethan Wells," the commander shouted. "Return to base immediately." He hesitated, torn between orders and the voice from his past. "Lyra, they'll destroy your ship. You need to leave." "I can't," she said softly. "I didn't come here to run away." "Then why?" Ethan asked. Lyra's voice turned colder, distant. "Because your people took something from mine. I came to take it back." His heart dropped. The girl he once knew, the one who smiled shyly and talked about stars, was gone. The voice he heard now belonged to someone who had seen war. "Lyra, what are you saying?" "You'll see soon," she said. "But first I need you to trust me again." Before he could answer, her ship moved. Not fast, but with perfect control, sliding through the air like liquid light. The human defense drones tried to follow, but every missile missed. "She's not attacking," Ethan muttered. "She's testing us. A fire now!" the commander ordered. The sky exploded. Blinding light filled the air. Ethan's sensors went white and his ears rang with static. When the smoke cleared, the alien ship was gone, vanished. Later that night, the colony base was in chaos. Commanders shouted orders. Engineers checked for damage, and the whole facility buzzed with fear. Ethan sat alone in the hangar, staring at the empty sky. His thoughts spun like broken gears. She was alive. She was real. But she wasn't the same. He remembered her words. "Your people took something from mine." What did she mean? He opened his hand and looked at the charm again. The small metal star glowed faintly, something it had never done before. "Sir?" A voice interrupted. A young soldier ran up, holding a datapad. "You need to see this." Ethan took it. On the screen was a video feed from one of the colony's hidden satellites, footage from earlier that day. It showed the alien ship not fleeing into space, but landing deep in the desert, outside the colony's border, and beside it, shapes. Dozens of them. "Those are aliens," the soldier said, swallowing hard, "but not slaves. They're armed, and they're moving toward us." Ethan stood up slowly. His pulse quickened. "How many?" "Hundreds. Maybe more." "It's an army, sir." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every memory of Lyra replayed in his mind. The promise, the laughter, her eyes glowing in the dark. Could she really be leading them? The same girl who once feared punishment just for stepping outside? He walked out to the old fence, the same one from his childhood. It was broken now, rusted and forgotten. The wind carried sand across the plains. He closed his eyes. "Lyra, what happened to you?" Then in the distance he saw something, light moving across the dunes. A figure walking toward the colony. Alone. Ethan reached for his blaster but stopped when he saw her face. Silver skin. Violet eyes. She stood just beyond the light's reach, watching him. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I had to see you," she replied. "Before it begins." "Before what begins?" Lyra stepped closer, her voice trembling with sadness. "The war that your people started long ago. The war you forgot." Ethan stared at her, speechless. She looked up at the sky where the stars burned brighter than ever. "You once promised to protect me. Now I'm here to protect my own." And before he could say another word, she turned and vanished into the night. The next morning, the sky over Lyra was a strange color, half gold, half gray. The air felt heavy, like the planet itself was holding its breath. The colony was awake long before sunrise. Soldiers rushed through the corridors, loading weapons and sealing doors. The rumor had spread. An alien army was gathering in the desert. But Captain Ethan Wells wasn't thinking about the army. He was thinking about her. He had seen Lyra again after 15 years, alive, strong, and filled with anger. The same girl who once dreamed about the stars was now talking about war, and he didn't understand why. Ethan stood in the command room looking at the satellite maps. Red dots spread across the sand, heat signatures from alien camps. Commander Rix, a hard-faced man with gray hair and no patience, stood beside him. "They've been planning this for years," Rix said. "Looks like they built their base right under our noses." Ethan frowned. "That's impossible. Our scanners would have picked up something." Rix gave him a cold smile. "Would they?" "Not if someone wanted them not to." Ethan turned toward him. "What are you saying?" Rix leaned closer. "I'm saying those aliens weren't just workers. They were experiments. Your father's project, remember?" Ethan froze. "My father? He died when I was a kid." "Yes," Rix said slowly. "But before he died, he worked on Project Vortex. It was supposed to help the alien species adapt to human environments. Turns out it wasn't about helping. It was about control." "Control?" Ethan whispered. "Mind control," Rix said. "They were trying to erase their memories and make them loyal slaves forever. But the project failed. Some of them escaped." Ethan's mind spun. His father, a scientist, was part of that? And Lyra? She had been one of those subjects? He left the base without permission. He needed answers, not orders. He followed the old trail into the desert, back to where her ship had landed. The landscape stretched for miles, burning sand and twisted rocks. The wind carried the faint smell of metal. After 2 hours of walking, he saw it, a half-buried silver ship glowing softly in the heat. Ethan moved carefully. The ship's door opened before he could touch it. A voice spoke behind him. "I knew you'd come." He turned. Lyra stood there, her silver armor reflecting the sunlight. Her eyes weren't angry anymore. "They were sad, Lyra," he said. "Why are you doing this? You said you came to take something back. What is it?" She looked at him quietly. "Our memories," Ethan blinked. "What?" "They took them from us," she said softly. "When we were children, we were part of your father's experiments. They erased who we were and made us forget our past. I only remembered after I escaped. I remembered you, and what you promised." Ethan felt the ground shift under him. "My father, he wouldn't." She stepped closer, holding a small crystal in her hand. "He did, and now his work is buried under your colony. The lab still exists. That's where the control codes are. We need them to free the rest of my people." Ethan stared at her, speechless. The truth was too big, too dark. "You want me to help you break into a military base?" "You owe me that much," she said. "You once promised to protect me. Now I'm asking you to protect everyone like me." He wanted to refuse, but her eyes, those same violet eyes he had missed all his life, pulled him in. "I can't just betray my people," he whispered. "Then choose," she said. "The truth, or your orders." Before he could answer, the sound of engines filled the air. Dust rose around them as human drones appeared on the horizon. "They followed me," Ethan said, drawing his blaster. "We have to move." Lyra tapped her wrist, and a glowing shield formed around them as the drones opened fire. The energy beams bounced off the barrier, lighting up the desert like lightning. "Run!" she shouted. They sprinted across the dunes, explosions tearing the sand behind them. Ethan's lungs burned, his legs heavy, but he didn't stop. Lyra led the way, moving with speed that didn't seem human. They reached a narrow canyon, slipping inside just as a missile hit the ridge above. The ground shook. Sand poured down around them. When the noise faded, they were safe, for now. Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You're insane," he said. Lyra smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I remember everything now, including the night you made that promise." He looked at her, still catching his breath. "And what happens if I help you? Then you'll finally know the truth about what your father did," she said softly. "And maybe you'll remember who you really are too." Her words hung in the air like a shadow. Ethan stared at her, confusion and fear mixing in his mind. "What do you mean by that?" Lyra didn't answer. She turned and started walking deeper into the canyon. "Come, Ethan, it's time you saw where it all began." The canyon stretched for miles, carved deep into the planet like a scar. The wind howled softly, carrying the sound of sand brushing against metal. Ethan followed Lyra through the narrow path, his boots crunching over stone. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Finally, they reached a wall of smooth black rock, too perfect to be natural. Lyra touched her wrist console and the ground beneath them rumbled. A hidden door slid open, revealing a dim tunnel lit by pale blue lights. "This is it," she said quietly. "The place they erased from history." Ethan stared into the tunnel. "The old research site?" She nodded. Project Vortex, the name alone made his chest tighten. He remembered hearing it when he was a child. His father used to whisper about it late at night, something about saving the future. But now standing here, it didn't feel like salvation. It felt like guilt. They stepped inside. Dust floated in the cold air. Machines long dead sat silent, covered in sand and rust. Glass tanks lined the walls, cracked, empty, but still glowing faintly from within. Ethan walked past one and froze. Inside was a faint handprint, small, alien, and old. "What is this place?" he whispered. Lyra looked around, her voice soft but heavy. "This is where they broke us. Humans called it genetic tuning. They changed our minds, our memories, our instincts. They made us forget our real home and serve theirs instead." Ethan's stomach twisted. "And my father? He helped build this?" "Yes," she said. He was the lead scientist. But he had doubts. Before he died, he hid something, data that could undo the control program. "That's why we came." She walked toward a central console, brushing dust off the surface. "Help me find the core files." Ethan hesitated. "If we're caught, we won't be," she said sharply. "Unless you still plan to turn me in." He didn't answer. He moved to another panel, trying to activate the system. After a few tries, the ancient machines whirred back to life. The lights flickered, and holographic screens appeared around them. Lines of code scrolled across the display. Files marked human neural interface. Obedience mapping and memory suppression. Ethan's heart sank. "This is wrong," he whispered. He said his work would help both species. Lyra turned to him. Maybe that's what he believed. But someone twisted it. She opened another file labeled Subject Records. Dozens of names appeared. Alien ones, each with an ID number. Her eyes scanned the list. Then she stopped. There it was. Her name, Lyra 47, and beside it, another name, Ethan 48. Her voice broke. "Ethan, look." He stepped closer. His heart froze. "That's impossible." "No," she said, staring at him. "It means you weren't just an observer. You were one of us." The words hit him like a thunderclap. He shook his head. "No, I'm human." "Half human," Lyra whispered. "Your father used his own son in the experiment. You were the bridge, part human, part Illyrian. That's why you could survive the tests." Ethan stumbled back. "No, that's not true." She reached out to him. "It's why you remember me. Why you could feel our connection even after they erased it. You were never meant to know." Ethan's thoughts spun out of control. Everything he knew, his childhood, his training, his loyalty, it all cracked like glass. Before he could speak, the ground shook violently. The tunnel lights flickered. Lyra's eyes widened. "They found us." From the entrance, bright red lights filled the tunnel. Human soldiers stormed in, shouting orders. "Drop your weapons." "Step away from the console." Ethan looked at Lyra, torn between two worlds. His own people were pointing guns at her, calling her a threat. But in that moment he saw fear in her eyes, the same fear she had as a child, hiding behind the crates years ago. He couldn't let history repeat itself. He stepped in front of her. "Stop," he shouted. "You don't understand." "Captain Wells," one soldier said, aiming his rifle. "You're under arrest. Step aside." Ethan's hand hovered over his blaster. His voice trembled. "I can't do that." Lyra touched his shoulder. "Don't fight them." "Not here." Before he could answer, she pressed a button on her wrist device. A flash of light exploded, blinding everyone. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the soldiers were unconscious and Lyra was gone. Hours later, Ethan sat handcuffed in the command room. Commander Rix paced in front of him, furious. "You betrayed your people for that alien," Rix growled. "What were you thinking?" Ethan's voice was calm. "I was thinking maybe she's not the enemy." Rix slammed his fist on the table. "She's leading an invasion. They'll wipe us out." Ethan looked up slowly. "Maybe they're not invading. Maybe they're coming to remember who they are." Rix stared at him for a long time, then leaned forward. "You've changed, Wells, and I don't like it." He turned away, barking orders to the guards. "Lock him up. Tomorrow he faces trial." As they dragged Ethan toward the cell, he saw something glowing faintly in his pocket. The star charm. It pulsed like a heartbeat. And in the distance, thunder rolled across the desert. deep, rhythmic, not from the sky, but from hundreds of ships landing. The war had begun. The morning of the war arrived with silence. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. The colony of Elira was locked down. The sky was gray, the air thick with dust and static. Every soldier stood ready, every ship armed and waiting. From his cell window, Ethan Wells watched it all unfold. He could see the desert stretching out to the horizon, and the black dots moving across it. At first, they looked like shadows. But as the sun rose higher, the shapes became clear. An army. Thousands of Illyrians, silver skin shining like metal under the light, weapons glowing blue. They moved in perfect silence, like one mind, and leading them was Lyra. Ethan gripped the bars, his heart heavy. The same girl who once whispered about stars was now marching at the front of an army. And somehow, deep inside, he knew she didn't want this war. But it had already begun. The cell door creaked open. Commander Rick stood there, armored and cold. "We're moving to the front line," he said. "You're coming with us." Ethan frowned. "You're making me fight her?" Rick smirked. "You know her better than anyone. You'll tell us her weaknesses, or you'll die with her." Ethan didn't answer. He simply followed, his mind racing. Every step felt heavier than the last. Outside, the sky thundered. Illyrian ships descended through the clouds, sleek and silent. Energy fields shimmered over them like water. The colony's cannons fired back, lighting up the horizon. The ground shook with every blast. Ethan was pushed into a transport vehicle. Soldiers whispered around him, fear in their eyes. No one wanted to admit it, but the aliens were stronger, faster, more precise. "Sir," one soldier muttered to Rix, "they're not firing at us directly. They're avoiding the residential zones." Rick snorted. "They're just saving ammo. Once they're close enough, they'll burn everything." But Ethan knew better. Lyra wasn't trying to destroy them. She was aiming for something else. "The lab," he whispered. Rix turned. "What did you say?" "She's going for the lab beneath the base. That's where the memory core is. That's what she wants." Rix frowned. "Then we make sure she never reaches it." He grabbed a rifle and barked orders. "All units, defend the central base. If they want the lab, they'll have to crawl over our corpses to get it." The battle began like thunder tearing open the sky. Ethan's transport was hit before it even reached the wall. The explosion threw him to the ground. He rolled over, coughing in the dust. Around him, soldiers screamed, smoke rose, and the ground burned hot. Through the chaos, he saw her again. Lyra, walking through fire, surrounded by her warriors. Energy blasts flew past her, but she didn't stop. Ethan ran toward her, not with a weapon, just with desperation. "Lyra!" he shouted over the noise. "Stop this!" She turned, her eyes full of light. "It's too late, Ethan. They'll never stop until we're gone." "You're not saving anyone like this," he yelled. "You're becoming the thing you hate." Her face twisted with pain. "You don't understand. My people are dying. The only way to free them is to destroy the code." "Then let me help," he said. She hesitated, staring into his eyes. "Why would you help me now?" "Because," he said softly, "I finally remember who I am." Something shifted between them. For a moment, the war around them faded. The screams, the fire, the chaos. It all became distant noise. But then a sharp voice broke through the comms. "Target locked on alien commander. Permission to fire?" Rick's Ethan's eyes widened. "No." He ran toward Lyra, but it was too late. A missile streaked through the sky, leaving a trail of smoke. Lyra's warriors shouted, trying to shield her. The explosion hit. The shockwave threw Ethan backward. Dust and fire filled the air. He landed hard, his ears ringing. When the smoke cleared, he saw her, Lyra, on the ground, her armor shattered, her hand reaching weakly toward him. Ethan crawled to her side, ignoring the bullets around them. "Stay with me," he begged. She smiled faintly. "You always keep your promises." "No," he said, tears mixing with dust. "You're not dying here." She shook her head. You still have time. The core, it's under the base. Destroy it, or none of this ends. Her voice grew weak. Promise me. Again. Ethan nodded, his heart breaking. I promise. Her hand fell still. He stared at her for a long time, unable to breathe. Then something inside him hardened. The confusion, the pain, the guilt, all of it turned to fire. He stood up, grabbed her weapon, and looked toward the colony. The humans and Illyrians were still fighting, neither side winning. Ethan whispered to himself, "No more." He ran toward the base as the battle raged behind him. In the control room, Commander Rix was shouting orders when the door burst open. Ethan stood there, covered in ash, holding Lyra's weapon. Rix aimed his pistol. "You should have stayed in your cell, Captain." Ethan's voice was cold. "You lied to all of us." "She was going to destroy everything," Rix yelled. Ethan took a step closer. "She wanted to free everyone, including us." Rix sneered. "You're one of them now, aren't you?" Ethan's eyes flashed with anger, and something else. "I always was." He fired. The blast echoed through the base, followed by silence. Outside, the fighting slowed. The alien ships hovered above the colony, waiting. Ethan stood at the entrance of the lab, staring down the tunnel that led to the core. Lyra's last words echoed in his mind. Destroy it, or none of this ends. He stepped forward, and deep beneath the ground the ancient machines began to wake. The underground corridor was cold and endless. Every step Ethan took echoed like a heartbeat. His armor was scorched, his hands covered in ash. He carried Lyra's weapon, its faint blue light guiding him deeper into the earth. Behind him, the colony shook from distant explosions. Above ground, humans and Illyrians were still fighting. But down here, beneath the chaos, was the reason for it all: the memory core. He reached a wide metal door marked Project Vortex, authorized access only. The letters were old, half-rusted, but still sharp enough to hurt. Ethan pressed his hand against the scanner. To his surprise, it flashed green. The door opened with a slow hiss. Inside, the room was huge, a cathedral of machines. Glowing tubes lined the walls, filled with swirling blue light. In the center stood a crystal sphere the size of a ship engine. It pulsed like it was alive. Ethan stared at it. "This is what they fought for," he whispered. "This is what she died for." But a voice answered from behind him. "She didn't die." Ethan spun around, blaster ready. From the shadows stepped Lyra. Her armor was cracked, her face pale, but she was alive. A faint shimmer of energy surrounded her, a healing field. Lyra. Ethan's voice broke. "How?" "I activated my suit's recovery system before the blast," she said softly. "It wasn't my time yet." He wanted to run to her, to hold her, but the moment froze. There was something strange in her eyes, something new. A faint glow, almost mechanical. "You're hurt," he said, stepping closer. "I'm different," she replied. "The core did something to me when I got near it." Ethan looked at the glowing sphere. "What is this thing, really?" Lyra placed her hand on one of the machines. "It's not just data. It's alive." The humans used Illyrian neural patterns to build a living memory network. Every time one of us was captured, our memories were added to this. She looked at him sadly. Our past, our pain, our voices, they're all trapped inside. Ethan felt a chill. "Then if we destroy it, we erase your people's memories." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but if we don't, the humans will use it again, to control us or worse." Silence filled the chamber. Ethan stared at the core, glowing softly, whispering like distant wind. Then he heard something. Voices. Faint. Echoing. "Ethan, Lyra." He froze. "Did you hear that?" Lyra frowned. "The core is reacting to us. It recognizes our DNA." The lights brightened. The sphere shimmered, and suddenly holograms filled the room. Scenes from the past, children in labs. scientists watching, Illyrians screaming as their memories were rewritten, and among them, Ethan's father. He stood before the core, recording a message. If you're hearing this, then you've found the truth. I never wanted this project to become a weapon. The hybrid, my son, is the key. His link to the Illyrian network can shut it down permanently. But doing so will cost him everything. His memories. His life. Ethan's body went cold. The hologram faded, leaving silence behind. He looked at Lyra. He made me the key. Her eyes softened. He believed you could fix what he broke. He shook his head. If I do this, I die. That's what he said. Lyra stepped closer, tears shining in her eyes. Then don't. We'll find another way. Ethan looked around the room. The tubes, the machines, the faces of thousands frozen in light. There is no other way. He smiled sadly. You said once you'd come back for me. I guess this time, I'll come back for you. Ethan, no, she cried, grabbing his arm. He touched her hand gently. Promise me one thing. What? When this is over, tell them the truth. Tell them we were both human. Before she could stop him, he stepped onto the platform before the core. The sphere flared, light flooding the room. The energy wrapped around him like a storm. Ethan! Lyra screamed. The machines roared to life. Sparks filled the air. Ethan's body glowed, his veins lighting up like stars. His memories, every laugh, every pain, every moment, flashed before his eyes. He saw his father smiling. He saw little Lyra laughing under the twin moons. He saw the promise they made under the stars. And then, peace. The light burst outward, shaking the ground. When it faded, the machines were silent. The core was gone. And Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Lyra fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, she whispered. But as she looked up, the ceiling lights flickered once, then steadied. The air hummed softly, and a faint blue glow appeared in the crystal fragments. A voice, quiet and familiar, echoed through the chamber. I promised I'd never leave you, remember? Lyra smiled through her tears. Ethan. The glow pulsed brighter, warm, alive. The war ended in silence. No more fire in the skies, no more screams across the desert. The air of Illyra was still, peaceful for the first time in 100 years. The memory core was gone, erased by Ethan Wells, the half-human, half-Illyrian boy who once made a promise under the stars. But his sacrifice had not vanished completely. Something of him remained, something light and alive. Lyra stood at the mouth of the canyon, the morning sun rising over the horizon. The wind brushed against her silver hair, carrying a soft hum that sounded almost like a heartbeat. Behind her, the remnants of both armies stood together, not as enemies but as survivors. The humans looked lost, confused. Many of them had felt something when the core was destroyed, a sudden rush of memories that weren't their own. They saw what their ancestors had done, and for the first time they understood. No one spoke. They simply watched the sunrise, and for once it didn't feel like victory or defeat. It felt like forgiveness trying to find its way. Lyra walked alone through the ruins of the lab. The machines were dead, but the walls still glowed faintly from residual energy. She touched one of the broken consoles, and a gentle pulse ran through her fingers. Ethan, she whispered, I can still feel you. A spark lit up near the center of the room, the place where he had stood. The air shimmered, and the faint blue light began to form a shape. At first it was only a glow. Then slowly it took on the outline of a man. Lyra, the voice said softly. Her breath caught. Ethan? The hologram flickered, unstable but real. His eyes were the same, calm and kind. I couldn't leave, he said. The core didn't kill me, it changed me. I'm part of it now. A memory that breathes. Lyra stepped closer, her hands trembling. You became one with the network. He smiled faintly. All those memories, the pain, the fear, they needed someone to hold them together. I can do that now. I can guide both our people, but I can't go back. Tears welled in her eyes. You kept your promise again, didn't you? Ethan's smile grew warmer. Always. The light flickered again, fading for a moment. She reached out instinctively, her hand passing through his image. "Listen," he said. "There's something you need to tell them. The humans aren't your enemies anymore. The control program is gone. They're free to choose their path just like you are." She nodded slowly. "And what about you?" "I'll be here," he said. "Watching the stars. Watching you." The hologram shimmered brighter, then faded into the air like mist, but his voice lingered, gentle and steady. "Build a world where no one belongs to anyone. Promise me that." Days turned into weeks. The humans and Illyrians began rebuilding together. The war machines were dismantled. The colonies reopened. For the first time, the two species worked side by side. They called the new settlement Nova Illyra, New Dawn. Lyra became its ambassador, guiding both sides toward peace. She taught the humans about Illyrian culture, and the Illyrians learned human science. Slowly, walls turned into bridges. But at night, when the twin moons rose, she would climb the old hill outside the colony, the same place where Ethan had once sat as a boy. She would sit quietly, holding the small metal star charm he'd kept since childhood. It glowed faintly in her hand, pulsing with a soft blue light. Sometimes, when the wind was still, she could hear his voice whisper through the stars, "You kept your promise." Years later, children were born who had both silver eyes and human skin. The scientists called them the Dawn generation. They didn't belong to one world or another. They belonged to both. They were living proof that peace could exist between what was once impossible. Lyra grew older, but she never lost her spark. She watched the world evolve, watched humans learn empathy and Illyrians rediscover joy. And sometimes, in her dreams, she saw Ethan walking beside her under the twin moons, always smiling, always calm. One night, as she stood on the hill again, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "We did it." The stars seemed to flicker brighter, as if answering her. Then among them, she noticed something new, a faint blue star that hadn't been there before. Her lips curved into a smile. "Hello, Ethan." The blue star pulsed once like a heartbeat. Lyra turned back toward the colony lights, now shining golden and blue together. Two colors, two races, one world. The wind carried her final words across the plains. Once, a human boy promised to marry a slave girl under the stars. But what they really did was teach the universe how to love again.